The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is Haymaker, Combat Sports. Hear it here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars, cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the goals, cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. They ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm a bow wow, you can hear from the pros. It's Haymaker, Combat Sports, on the road.
Welcome back, Haymaker Combat Sports, powered by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. I am your host, DJ Reed, joined by my fellow hosts, Aaron Admire, Steve Johnson. What's good, fellas?
Happy Tuesday. It is pumpkin spice season.
Yeah, I didn't know you were this pumpkin spice guy.
Man, it's really growing on me. I used to make fun of everybody that was big into it, made that part of their identity. But I don't go that far, but I like me a good pumpkin spice. The weather's still good, but the leaves are falling, so it's a fall thing. So pumpkin spice type mood.
I don't know if it's a thing where it's just keeps getting pushed back and pushed back, but I feel like it wasn't this hot this time of year last year. I feel like, why is it in the 80s right now?
So I got an answer for that, actually.
What is it?
So you know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Astrophysicist. Somebody asked him the question about the climate getting, warmer, longer throughout the year. The summers are hotter. We got these crazy storms, hurricanes, and all that. And he said the reason is we actually have cleaned up the earth too much. We stopped polluting, so it cleared up the sky, the ozone, and everything. And there's nothing blocking the sun like it used to be. So the sun is warming things up more.
That makes sense, but it's got to be like some type of catch-22 if we just start polluting again. I feel like that'll probably do some type of damage in some way. Maybe it might, make it colder again, but I feel like polluting. Did he give that answer? Like, what happens if we start polluting again?
No, just gotta kind of figure out something, because if you think about it, all the emissions from all the cars, creates them gases in the atmosphere, and we've switched to, a lot of electric cars, and everything's more efficient now, and everything's battery powered. So, I mean, it makes sense how the way that he explained it, but I don't know what the offset is. How do you, like you said, get that catch-22 balance of we kind of need to shade a little bit. I don't remember the last time it was 80, 90 degrees in October.
Well, I guess the opposite would be it for it to be cold, so I guess I'll take it. But it's still odd. When you're growing up, you're used to it being fall, and right now it's still pretty hot. But I guess you got to take the good with the bad. I guess.
Normally we've had one snow by now.
Yeah, definitely. And November, but yeah, usually sometimes late October.
I'm running around shorts and flip-flops still.
Yeah, me too. But like you said, it's pumpkin spice season for those who partake in that. Spooky season for everybody that likes watching scary movies. Got most people going to be celebrating Halloween this weekend. That's basically adults' excuses to dress ridiculous, sometimes slutty if it's a woman's case. And trunk or treats. Your daughter's still trick or treating. I know she's kind of getting.
She said she's going this year. So I said, all right. I don't know what she's gonna be, but she said
12
she's
or 13.
Going. She's 12.
Yeah, so she still got a little bit more time
in between age, and I gotta get the candy tax, man. I steal all them Kit Kats from her.
Yeah, my parents were in town this past weekend, and for some reason, when we went to the movies, they got like a big bag of Kit Kats. So it's been laying around my house, and I've been just eating them here and there. I'm like, why'd they leave this with me? Like, I'm just gonna eat it all.
Kit Kats are the best, man.
And yeah, they are. And Steve, you said, I think last year you said your kids are trunk or treating, right?
Yeah, they mostly do that every year, especially if it's too cold. If it's too cold, they usually trunk or treat, but if it's warm enough, or they'll risk it and go door to door. But like you said, I don't feel like it's as popular as, probably 15, 20 years ago, as far as kids going door to door, at least in where I live.
Yeah, they don't even come to where I live. This would be my 2021. This is my 4th Halloween I'll be here, and I'm not even buying candy because they never come around here. So.
Dude, I always buy a bunch of candy, and I get like 3 maybe. I used to buy the bucket of the Fireball shots and give out to the parents too.
Hey, sounds like my type of house to go to. Man, why can't I be around your area? I wish I would have like a Fireball shot. But hey, guess you got to be the lucky person to go by somebody generous as Admire is. But yeah, man, it's like we're getting close to the end of the year. Like before you know it, it'll be Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then we'll do it all over again. But I just like to take things one day at a time and live in the moment. But we're here today to talk some MMA, and like we always do at this time, we'll talk some stories inside and outside the ring. And Admire, something with Diaz came across your feed? What's that about?
Yeah, this it popped up on me yesterday, the day before, and now it popped up right before the show as I was scrolling TikTok. Brendan Schaub, former UFC top 10 heavyweight, has some major beef going on with Nate Diaz, and I can't figure out why. But like Brendan is like, he does this thing on one of the podcasts. He's like, I will fuck him up. I will fight him, just like going on and on. And I don't know what it's about. They had beef before, back when McGregor fought Mayweather in boxing. Brendan Schaub was doing like the MMA side of the analyst for that stuff. And Diaz had a problem with how much hype Schaub was putting behind McGregor, which that was his job. He was getting paid to hype the MMA guy, and Diaz didn't like it because Diaz was going to be the next fight for McGregor in the UFC. And I don't know if this is carryover. I cannot find what happened recently, but Schaub's going off on Diaz like every day. They're back and forth on Twitter, X, all that. Like they're beefing pretty good. And I mean, Schaub said, "Bring your boys," whatever.
And you can't figure out why they're beefing.
No, I haven't found that yet. All I keep getting is clips of Schaub calling out Diaz, and a lot of people, their first reaction is, "Oh, Nate Diaz would smoke him." Brendan Schaub's a big dude. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He was top 10 heavyweight. I mean, Schaub would just grab a hold of Diaz and just ragdoll him.
I want you to hold that thought. Steve, do you know anything about this story?
Well, I do. I know they had past altercations. I think there's a video out there to where they had an actual face-to-face to where in Diaz fashion, how he challenges people with his boys. And I think that's more of an altercation where we're going to see between Brendan Schaub and Nate Diaz, my opinion. Like Admire said, I mean, of course, there's weight classes. He's a bigger dude. But I think the last altercation, Diaz had his boys with him. As always, if he's in a professional setting around other fighters, I think he was about to stir up stuff before, Brendan Schaub looked like he didn't want it, and really nothing happened. But that's all I remember, their last altercation around that time of the McGregor time, and they actually met backstage and they had a small altercation there.
Yeah, the altercation they got into was at the boxing thing, and Brendan Schaub was told that if he gets in a fight there that he'd be fired and he wouldn't be paid or something like that. So he kind of had to back down from that.
Any particular reasons, Steve? Is just crews just clashing, or?
Well, I think Diaz, especially maybe as a fan, me as a fan, I've seen Brendan Schaub have opinions on people to where I understand where somebody doesn't like it, where it comes from somebody. And that's where a lot of fighters feel from Brendan Schaub. And I think Nate Diaz feel like he's accomplished more than Brendan Schaub for him to having an opinion on him of saying who's going to win or not. And I think that's where it came from.
Here we go. I just pulled up the story. So on his podcast, Brendan Schaub was pretty emotional talking about Shane Carwin, former, UFC interim heavyweight champ, all that. Shane Carwin's having financial and physical issues, and it was part of the UFC antitrust lawsuit. And I guess Schaub got emotional on his podcast talking about it. And Nate Diaz posted on X, Brennan, the big old pussy Schaub. And that's what kicked it off.
That's pretty funny, but I mean, there's consequences to your actions. So if you popping that shit, Diaz, that's classic Diaz. You gotta, face the consequences when somebody comes at you. So I see why Brendan Schaub is mad, but
yeah,
Diaz being Diaz.
So this is what Brennan said. He said, I retired 15 years ago, man. That being said, that's social media. This isn't real because here's what's real. I will fuck you up. That's real. I'm not asking for this. I don't want to fuck him up. I'm not trying to fuck him up. End of the day, if he walked in here right now, one of us is going to walk out unscathed, and it's me every fucking day of the week.
So going back to Admire's original point about if they did get an altercation, initially I'd be like, yeah, it's weight class for a reason. Brendan Schaub will just, probably murder Diaz just because of the weight difference. But I think, like, if you actually, try to break it down a little bit, is Brendan Schaub still actively training? Because if he is, then I would still say, yeah, he smokes him. But if he's not training like that, I mean, back in the early days of UFC, Horace Gracie showed that, weight differences can be overcome. And if Diaz is training every day and Schaub isn't, it gets to the ground.
I don't think Schaub's like actively training MMA, but I know he stays very fit. Like he stays in the gym. So, I mean, he's not, put on a belly or anything like that. He's still in real good shape. I mean, Schaub comes in, I think 6'5", 245. I think he was a little bit, under the limit. I think he's 245. Diaz, of course, 6'1", fight 155, 170, probably walks around maybe 185.
Yeah, and since the skills are a lot better than the early UFC days, I'm still gonna lean towards Shaw getting the better Diaz if they were to fight in a street fight. But I don't know if Diaz is pretty active. So who knows? He might fuck around and catch Shaw too. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean anything could happen, but I mean if Schaub gets a hold of him, it's pretty much over. I mean he's got the size and strength just to grab him and sit him down. And Diaz is a volume guy. If you think about a street fight, you really don't want the volume, you want the heavy hit.
Yeah, so it'd be fun to see them scrap. Somebody got some fan footage of that, but it's people just top. Internet ain't real. People just popping shit on the internet. Like those guys ain't gonna fight. So that's a pretty funny story though, especially with Diaz said him crying on there. Like I said, that's classic Diaz. In other news, this is a story that doesn't end. It's probably like our third time talking about this, but it's more progress in story. Judge approves the UFC antitrust lawsuit, and there's finally a number on the settlement, $375. But there's still not a story on, what the payout is going to be to the fighter. So I think that's like a just number for this payout, $375 million. I can't even remember how many people are in this lawsuit.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. How many people are in it? Because I mean, if it's every person that's ever been in the UFC, you're talking, I don't know, maybe 1,000 guys.
I think it's probably been more than 1,000 that's ever been on the roster, but it's people that are just plaintiffs in this lawsuit. It's not like everybody that's ever fought in the UFC.
I mean, I don't even remember. It's been going on for so long, kind of dropped off my radar. Like, what are they suing for? Were they suing because they were underpaid, suing for physical damage?
Yeah, that they weren't being paid what they should have been paid, and then damage that they caused from fighting, and they're just trying to recover on what they should have been paid and for, what the loss that they suffered fighting and whatnot.
Well, I mean, without knowing all the details, my first thought is you signed the contract to fight for a set amount. Like, they didn't twist your arm. And then secondly, if you're a contractor and you go do some work for someone and you get hurt, that's on you. It ain't on whoever hires you. That's why a contractor is different than an employee.
Yeah. I'm looking more into this. So I'm seeing that looks like they do have a little bit more details. After all fees and costs are deducted, 35 class members would net over $1 million. Nearly 100 fighters would net $500,000. More than 200 would net $250K, and over 500 would net 100,000, and then 800 would recover 50,000. And they say by any reasonable measure, the settlement, if approved, would put life-changing cash in the hands of families of several hundred fighters. But yeah, at the top, $1 million is nothing to sneeze at, but you could blow that easily.
Especially some of them, the lifestyle that they're used to living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, the payouts that you read, I don't know, I didn't add it up, but it sounded like a lot more than what the settlement's actually for. I mean, 300 and whatever million.
Yeah, 375. I don't know. I think those numbers probably add up.
It could. I didn't add it up, but I just I don't know. I mean, a judge is a judge for a reason. You know more about judges than me. I don't know. Just from what I know, like I said, a contractor's responsible for their own injuries, and you signed a contract for the money. If I signed a contract to go put a new roof on my neighbor's house, and I can't come back in 10 years and sue them because they didn't pay me enough, unless they paid me less than what I agreed on.
Yeah, but any contract isn't ironclad. Even prenups, like the judge can rule it, some parts of it being unconscionable and, not in good faith. So even though you do have a contract, it still can be some caveats in there where, somebody could still recover on that, which most likely is in this case. So I'm not mad at fighters getting paid. Like I said, I mean, something's better than nothing, but it's not like some of these people are going to retire off that, but we'll see. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Steve?
Well, I don't know if these, I don't know if they settled the one long time ago with, what's his name?
Kung Lee?
Well, he was in it with, he fought.
John Fitch was in on it, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another one that's I just had his name in my head that came out. Fought for the title. I think he even fought Brock Lesnar.
Oh, Shane Carwin.
No, not even him.
Mark Hunt.
Frank Mir.
Well, yeah, he's him also, but I think did he start with a K? Oh my gosh.
Frank Mir?
Nah. I'll tell you one. Machida kicked him in the face, right in the chin, just like Silva. And I think that's when he retired. When Lyoto Machida.
Oh, you're talking about Randy Couture?
Yes, Randy Couture. I know he had a lawsuit with him also. But then again, I don't know if these are separate because
I think
also talking about Mark.
I don't know if Randy. Yeah, I don't know if Randy. This is the one with Randy Couture. I think this is the one with Kung Lee and all those.
Okay. And then we have Mark Hunt with that was a popular one with suing for the Brock Lesnar fight.
Yeah, that's something totally separate. But yeah, this is the Kung Lee Nate Quarry one.
Okay. Yeah, and so this must have been going on for
over a decade. This has been
decade.
going on. Yeah, this one's been going on for over a decade.
And I think dealing with these, I don't know if you would know expertise that probably takes about that long to settle these type of lawsuits.
Yeah, these big class action lawsuits can take this long, especially in like new grounds like this where it hasn't really been addressed before.
Yeah.
Well, man, Kung Lee was making good money. I just looked it up for UFC 139. He lost and still made $350,000. What the hell is he mad at? That's more than a lot of fighters today.
What was his main complaint? What happened with him?
I think Kung Lee was saying that he didn't get paid enough, based on what the UFC was making.
Yeah.
I think he was a big Eastern movie star too. He was in a few movies. So he's a
I used to enjoy those Kung Lee fights. He had some good ground and pound. But yeah, it's good that they're getting paid. Go ahead,
when I just Googled Kung Lee, this news story popped up from 2019. Evidence in Kung Lee lawsuit against the UFC shows that the company paid 20% of revenue to fighters. So that must be what they're suing over. Hey,
they should be getting more than 20%. Like, I know they gotta pay the shareholders, but they should have been at least giving fighters 40%, I think. But that's how the fat cats stay rich. Just, taking the money from people that make you the money. But I think it's still some things that have to get ironed out with it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we talk about this again in the future. But next story, we have Dana White. He always pops up in the news. Somebody was interviewing him and about who's the pound for pound fighter in the world. And of course, we know who's got a fight coming up next. He said John Jones, basically hands down, he thinks is the number one pound for pound fighter. And, he laid out his reasons and people got their opinions on it. Islam Makhachev's manager basically, doesn't agree with it. It's Ali Abdelaziz. He thinks it's just Dana White just saying that because he has a John Jones fight to promote next month. But you got some people that agree. Armin Sarukian, he agrees. He thinks that John Jones is the number one pound for pound fighter. So it's been a while since we talked about divisional rankings or pound for pound. Who do y'all think is the number one pound for pound right now? Admire?
John Jones.
Really?
It's nobody but John Jones.
Really? Huh. I didn't think you would give that answer. Why do you think John Jones is number one pound for pound right now?
He moved up to heavyweight, made it look easy. Everything he's done in the past. And, I've always been a big John Jones critic for the shit that he does outside of the cage, but there's just nothing you can say about inside the cage. He had a close fight with Gustafsson. He had a close fight with Reyes. But other than that, he's been pretty dominant. You know what I mean?
Even with inactivity, he hadn't fought in a year and a half.
I don't think that a year and a half wipes away everything you've done. Like
a pound for pound, though, is basically saying right now, you being active and what have you done for me lately? Not pound for pound all the time.
If somebody's breaking into my house and I get to pick one UFC fighter, I'm taking John Jones. That's how I do my pound for pound.
It's interesting math to go by, but I have to accept it. Who's your pound for pound right now, Steve?
I can see different arguments, but for my argument, I can definitely see John Jones just because the people that's even claiming close to his pound for pound haven't even fought as many times as him or defended it. So it's like if you're that much good, like he can take 2, 3, 4, 5 years off if nobody can, so to speak, beat his record, because his proof is in the pudding, I think. I mean, if somebody, he went through murder, and top of that, some of these people haven't went through murder's row like John Jones back to back to his latter career, which people even say and arguably say Stipe is one of the best in the world. I think he has well-deserved time lay off if he can outdust the competition to have that many wins and have other champions not have that many wins in defenses, and to be compared, I think that's messed up for anybody to even say, even if he was inactive.
Well, John Jones is still my number one fighter all time, but I'm gonna agree with ESPN. I'm looking at ESPN's pound for pound ranking, and John Jones is not even on it. And I kind of agree. I mean, you gotta be active because who knows how John Jones is gonna look against Stipe. I think Dominic Cruz always says ring rust isn't a real thing. I believe ring rust is a real thing. I think John Jones probably will overcome that because he's John Jones. But right now, I just can't rank him right now just because he hasn't fought. And as soon as he fights, he touches the mat on November whenever he fights in MSG, he'll be right back at the top of my number one pound for pound. But right now, I got to go with the people that I've been seeing fighting, and I'm torn between Islam and Alex Pereira, who's my number one pound for pound right now. And I think, as much as I hate to say it, because like I said on the last show, I still got to see him tested against a grappler. But I think I'm leaning towards Pereira being number one pound for pound. Fuck it. It's my list. I'll just have them tied, actually. I got Islam and Alex tied for number one pound for pound because I can't choose. So I guess inactivity doesn't matter on both of y'all pound for pound consideration.
No. And, maybe it would if he didn't have a fight lined up and he was just sitting on the bench. But he's got a fight coming up, man.
And that's what I'm saying. As soon as he fights, then he's back on. I got to see him fight first. And this Stipe, this is an old Stipe, and so it's weird things that happen in sport. But I think he's gonna get by with flying colors. But who knows? What are you gonna say, Steve?
John Jones is like a very rare case, especially just talking about the UFC. He's a very unique case to say only person to even put in that category. To me, for that, other anybody else doesn't even fit in this category. As far as how many wins, and of course, we all know that one loss doesn't count, but I think John Jones is a very unique case to even make an argument that anybody else you couldn't even say.
Yeah. And I mean, this is kind of another news story, but related to the same topic. Francis Ngannou just fought this weekend.
Well, that was last on my list. But you kind of got ahead of the lead, yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, that was the only fight to make, John Jones and Ngannou. If you're taking John Jones out because of his inactivity, wouldn't that make Ngannou the top pound for pound? MMA speaking?
Well, let's just get into it. This past weekend over there in Saudi Arabia, we had a PFL battle of the heavy hitters or something like that. It was labeled. Francis Ngannou went out there, and what's the first time he hit the cage since? Man, because he boxed twice.
Yeah, he boxed twice. Let's see, his last time in the MMA world.
Is it like Cyril Gane?
Yeah, it had to have been the Cyril Gane fight.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Cyril Gane, 2022.
Yeah, so this past weekend over there in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, PFL Super Fights battle the Giants. He went over there and fought Renan Ferreira, and not a lot of us knew how he was gonna look in the cage after taking a lot of time off. It's been 2.5 years, January 2022. And he went in there and passed with flying colors. First round KO. He got that Fierro down pretty easily. And if you looked at the fight, Fierro just looked big, and Francis Ngannou didn't have any trouble taking him down, and eventually did his work and got him out of there with ground and pound. The judge so mercifully stepped in and stopped the fight. And what were y'all thoughts of this one? Francis Ngannou looked pretty good from what we saw in there. What are your thoughts, Amir?
Yeah, I mean, he looked pretty good, but did he look that good? Because, I mean, Ferreira, he didn't look like he really knew what he was doing in there. Like, you know, he's supposed to be the top heavyweight over there, and he didn't look like he had much. He couldn't do anything. I mean, when he got on the ground, he kind of tried to throw up a triangle, but couldn't do much. He just kind of looked lost in there. But I mean, I imagine anybody would look lost after getting hit by Francis.
Yeah, and coming into this fight, I liked how Ferreira looked in, especially against Ryan Bader. He handled Ryan Bader pretty easily in less than 20 seconds or so. He finished Ryan Bader or whatnot.
21 seconds.
Yeah, so I was surprised how he kind of looked like a fish out of water on the ground. And I want to say he's pretty high up there in as far as grappling. I might be wrong. He might just be a striker. I thought he was trained with the Nogueiras and stuff like that, but I might be wrong.
I mean, he's got one submission win, so I don't think it's like his bread and butter, but he does train with Nogueiras.
Yeah, so, but Francis Ngannou is a big man, so maybe that played a factor into it. But I don't know. What were your thoughts on this one, Steve?
Yeah, I was surprised that, you know, we saw him throw a few defensive techniques as far as submissions, but for somebody that says they have submission work on the ground, which that's what I thought, you know, he seemed like a fish out of water, or Ngannou's that imposing as far as his strength. You know, I saw a few times, I analyzed where he tried to kick him off and he couldn't. I thought he was a more, and I'll give Ngannou his credit because I looked at his other fights as far as Ferreira, and he's caught people going in on the takedown with a knee. He has amazing reflexes, but seems like when he got to the ground, it wasn't even a contest, especially when the ground and pound started. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, so going back to what you said, Aaron, I mean, I get what you're saying because Ngannou wasn't active, and now that he fought, and he'd be up there in the pound for pound. But I still do got to look at strength of schedule and competition. And he's in the PFL. If he did this in UFC, I would have put him right back at the top of my pound for pound. But unfortunately, he's in the PFL. I still put him in the top 5 pound for pound. But
yeah, I think he still has to be in the top 5 pound for pound until you see something happen in MMA. You know, he lost both his boxing fights, but I thought he won the Fury fight. The Joshua fight is pretty bad.
I didn't think he won the Fury. I think he had his moments in the Fury fight, but going back and adding up for round to round, he had probably the more highlight moments. But you know, a lot of people gave it to Ngannou though, so I can't argue too much with it. But yeah, he looked good in that first boxing match, not so much in the second one, and now he's back in MMA. So, like, what do you do with him if you're a PFL now? Because they don't really have any big names in that heavyweight division. PFL is underrated in their lower weight divisions. They have some good fighters, but as far as heavyweight, they don't really have anybody. I don't know, what will you even do with them, Admire?
Oh, I imagine he'll probably take some kind of other boxing match. I mean, he got straight paid, you know what I mean? So I don't know. They got to try to get somebody away from the UFC maybe, because I don't think they have anybody on their roster that's really going to, you know, stand out, you know, and bring the buys and the views that any other fight would be. I don't know. I'm looking at the PFL's, heavyweight rankings,
Mhm.
and like I haven't really heard of many of these guys. And they even they had Ngannou, they still have it, him ranked number 4 on their heavyweight list. So I mean, I imagine that'll change, but number 2, Dennis Goltsov,
Mm.
number 3, Ante Dehaya.
Mm.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I watch a lot of MMA, but those names don't ring a bell. Who else is on that list?
Bruno Capoloza is their number 6. Number 5, Jamel the Beast Jones.
John
Number
Jones'
7,
cousin.
yeah. Number 7, Linton the Big Swarm Vassell. Number 8, I think this guy fought on the one of the shows. Sergey Belostiny, Oleg Popov, number 10, Klidson White Bear Abreu at number 9.
I'm sure those guys are ranked for a reason, but half of fighting is building up a fight and building the hype for it and selling tickets and pay-per-views, and no disrespect to those guys, not gonna necessarily sell pay-per-view buys. So I don't know if you can put them up against any of those guys. I don't know. What do you think, Steve? What's next for Ngannou?
Yeah, it's very hard, and for real, the dude he fought kind of popped up on my radar when I figured out who he was fighting, and I think dude's size helped promote the fight because they even had it in the title as far as Battle of the Giants or something like that. It's like, yeah, some people might deserve it, but what's gonna make people go to it and look for it or look at it? I know for sure on this upcoming fight with Ngannou had with Fiera, I'm like, man, this is 2 big dudes, which means 2 and 2. You might think somebody has a chance. Plus, he had striking. Didn't know if he was going to stand up, but obviously we saw how the fight went. So that's why I wanted to watch it. But who's going to be look interesting or as big of his size for even people to say, oh, this dude's going to get smashed or not even pay attention? Sort of like the Mike Tyson aura. Like, is he, that dude's going to get smashed, or isn't he even going to be worth watching? Because PFL, the promotion of it, I think it's very hard to find versus UFC on whatever algorithm, YouTube or whatever. More of if I wasn't an MMA fan, I probably wouldn't have known Ngannou would have fought last weekend.
Yeah, it started getting a little buzz on my feed, but and I started seeing commercials for it on ESPN, so that's good that they have that on their side. But yeah, I don't know. I'm an admirer. Maybe he goes back and box some, but I'm sure
maybe they're waiting on to see what happens with Jones and Stipe. Then maybe we'll get a co-promotion super fight. But
y'all think that happens? Y'all think he ever fights Jones?
I don't think a co-promotion super fight happens just because the UFC is too stubborn on that. But I mean,
they're both in bed with ESPN. I think it might be possible.
Well, maybe then.
Contract too, doesn't he? I think we talked about his contract before.
Whose contract?
Ngannou's.
I don't know.
PFL.
I don't know his PFL contract. I think it might be fight to fight. I don't know.
It was something like that, but there was things in his contract, of course, that allowed him to go box. I wonder if there's something in his contract that he's allowed to bounce over to the UFC for a fight if, Dana offers it, just for John Jones, I don't know. But I'm glad I didn't watch that whole fight card. I was just looking at the results of it. There were 6 decisions, 2 submissions, and 1 KO.
What happened with the Cyborg fight?
She won via decision.
Damn. Cyborg starting to slow down.
Yeah, she fought Pacheco.
Yeah, but she's a tough one. She beat Kayla Harrison. Pacheco did. Yeah. I saw the AJ McKee fight, and it was okay. But like you said, I don't know if it was worth going back and watching. But I don't know. PFL. I mean, what's going on with like the Bellator side of things too? Like, is that still a thing?
I haven't heard. Let me do a quick search. Well, I mean, they still got a website.
And I know AJ McKee had Bellator gloves on, so it's all a mess.
Yeah, I'm on Bellator's website, and it's a big advertisement for PFL Battle of the Giants.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see probably first quarter next year what happens with Ngannou. It'd be dope if him and Jones did it, but I don't know. Would y'all rather see Jones and Ngannou or Jones and Tom Aspinall?
Oh, the Ngannou fight easy. I mean, that's the fight that we all wanted that we didn't get. Like, if he beats Tom Aspinall, then he beat a young kid coming up through the heavyweights.
I mean,
He beat.
we can't do that. We can't do what they did with Mayweather and Canelo. Aspinall is like 32, 33.
Yeah, but he's he's just kind of popped up on the scene the last couple of years as an elite fighter. But I mean, okay, if John Jones beats Aspinall, though, there's no glory in that. There's no prestige around that. He just beat another guy. But if John Jones beats Ngannou, that's like world news. Like, it's going to be everywhere. Like, it's going to be the most talked about thing for the week.
I don't want to hear that because I've been hearing more that Aspinall is the one that's going to beat Jones more than Ngannou, I guess, because Ngannou is not in the same organization. But everybody's saying that Jones is like running from Aspinall. So I don't want to hear people try to like retcon it and be like, he's the young kid and he's too young. Aspinall, I mean, I feel like he is what he is at this point. He's 31. He'll probably be 32 if that fight ever happens. So yeah, I don't know. What would you be more excited for, Steve?
Both are good fights, but me thinking about it, I would think John Jones would easily go to the wrestling. And I'm trying to think if Tom Aspinall has ever been.
Nobody's really trying to take him down like that. Even Curtis Blaze, who's supposed to be like the best wrestler in the division, he didn't even try taking him down. Or maybe he shot like once and then gave up on it. I have to go back and watch the fight, but it was over pretty quickly.
I think definitely with John Jones and Ngannou, though, there would be more push and pull on a battle of a test, whether it's endurance or, when somebody can get a takedown or even the striking. I think that would be more of more at stake with Ngannou and John Jones of people's expectations, I would say.
Well, they said John Jones is flirting with retirement. So if I had my wish, I would want to see him and Aspinall after the Stipe fight. And then somehow, some way, him and Ngannou the second quarter of next year, which will probably won't happen because he probably won't even face Aspinall next year. But if I had my way, it'd be Aspinall first half next year and then Ngannou. But who knows if we see any of those fights. But, it's always cool to try to fantasy book these things. But, fellas, let's get into the card that's happening this coming up weekend. UFC 308 going down over there in Abu Dhabi, over there in the Middle East. And I feel like this card kind of snuck up on us. You had the fight last month in Salt Lake City with Alex Pereira, and a lot of people are already talking about this John Jones fight. So y'all think this card kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit?
Yeah, I think it kind of flew under the radar. I completely forgot all about it, and you were like, "Hey, we doing a show?" Yeah, yeah. I think it's getting overshadowed by a lot of things, especially the fights that are coming up after it. But I mean, on paper, from what I can tell, this is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and with these, they do Abu Dhabi at least once a year, and with these Abu Dhabi pay-per-views, it's gonna be one of those early afternoon cards that start at like 1 or 2 over here. So do y'all like those ones that start over there? The pay-per-views that start early like that?
I personally don't. I like getting the UFC at nighttime. It just it's what I'm used to. That's when I don't have anything going on. That's when I can lock in. 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If I didn't have anything going on, then yeah, it's great if it's on. But this weekend I'll probably be out doing something. I'll have to catch it on a replay.
Well, all right. I kind of probably already know your answer for this, Steve, because you work on Saturday, so you probably don't really like these afternoon cards.
Yeah, I probably catch it around the time I stop working, or the last 3 or 2 fights. Probably sometimes not even that when the fight ends. So yeah, I don't usually like it during the early Saturdays.
Me personally, I kind of like these Saturday afternoon cards. Just not all the time, but just like however they do it. They may do it twice a year at the very most. They used to do it for London. For some reason, they don't even do it for London anymore. But I kind of like to switch up a little bit because they usually do it during football season. So I'll usually have a football game on the tablet and throw the fight on the TV and pop open some cold ones. And by the time it's 5, the fight's over. And if I want to do something at night, I could go out and do it. And, like I said, I like the little change up like that every once in a while. And yeah, and that's because my old ass, that doesn't happen all the time, but every now and again, my ass will be dozing off at these late ass cars that the main event doesn't start till midnight. Like, I'm like, how did I used to do this when I lived over on the East Coast? If a fight not starting till 1 a.m, that's insane. So sometimes I doze off at the co-main event and I have to watch that shit in the morning. So sometimes I'm not mad at these early cars, but like I said, as long as it's not the norm, then I'm okay with it. But let's start off with the early prelims, and I usually do my research on these names because when they fight over there, you got a lot of people from the Middle East and Russia, and a lot of Western Europeans that fight on this card. So, pardon me if I bought some of these names up. But starting off in the heavyweight division, we got Kennedy and Dechkulu versus Chris Barnett. And we talked about Kennedy before. I didn't know he was a heavyweight for some reason. I thought he was like a welterweight or a middleweight, if I'm not mistaken. Do you remember, Steve?
That's a good question. I definitely remember him fighting. Trying to remember somebody specifically who he fought.
Okay, so I'm looking at it. All his previous fights were at light heavyweight, and I'm guessing maybe this might be a last minute, step in, but this one is happening at heavyweight. And your guy Chris Barnett, I know he's gone viral. A lot of people talk about him doing his flips. The chubby guy out there. I don't know. I don't think I'm doing anything Saturday morning, so I'll probably be tuning in this fight. I don't know if y'all be able to tune into it.
If I ain't got nothing going on, I will.
Yeah, I'll try to definitely catch that Chris Barnett fight just so I can see him do the tumble flip again.
That's if he wins. So
yeah,
if he wins. Moving on to the prelims, in the light heavyweight division, we have Abu Aslan versus Rafael Sarkaria. Welterweight, we have Hanat Fakhudinov versus Carlos Lilal. In the middleweight division, we have Ismail Nardiev versus Bruno Silva. In the bantamweight division, we have Farid Basharat versus Victor Hugo. In the middleweight division, we have Asbupiyan Magomedov versus Bruno Ferreira. And lightweight division, we have Mateusz Rebecki versus Mateusz Orlabai. And then to top it off, we have in the welterweight division, we have Jeff Neal versus RDA Rafael dos Anjos, where y'all be tuning into these prelims.
Yeah, I mean, it's early. The prelims start at 9 a.m. Central. You know, I might still be in bed, hopefully. Maybe I'll turn it on. But that RDA and Jeff Neal fight, man, that's a banger. That'll be a good fight.
Yeah, that's definitely got some implications in that welterweight division. You're going to be tuning into that one, Steve?
Yeah, most definitely. I'll be looking into that. People sleep on Jeff Neal, especially with that Luque fight. And what's that dude's name? Had a good fight with him.
Against Jeff Neal?
Yeah. I think it was his here, I'll figure it out real quick. What is his name?
Are you talking about
was it not Shavkat? Is it Rachmanov?
Oh, Shavkat Rachmanov. Yeah,
Shavkat Rachmanov.
Yeah, they had that knockdown drag out. We talked about that. That was at 285. I thought you was talking about the Ian Machado Gary fight, because that was a split decision.
Yeah. But like I said, he I think we talked about it before, like certain journeymen or people got gatekeepers, and I feel like if he turns something up in his skills, he'll definitely be above maybe a gatekeeper or a very superior one. But yeah, don't sleep on Jeff Neal. And also Dos Anjos, because he always brings the fight, even at his veteranship in the game.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we all be trying to tune into that one. But let's move on to the main card. Get our predictions with this one. The middleweight division, we got kicking off this Sharbudin Magomedov versus Armin Petrosyan. I don't know if you have the odds up in front of you, but what you think about who you got on this one, Amar?
You know, they're fighting over there. You know, they're not going to let a lot of the guys lose. And I mean, Magomedov, this dude, from what I've seen, he's just an animal. He's going to be another one that's moving up the rankings very quickly. So I'm definitely taking Magomedov on this one. The odds are minus 155 for Magomedov and plus 130 for Petrosyan.
So it's pretty close, actually. Petrosyan's coming off a loss. Who you got, Steve?
I'll go with Magomedov. Definitely because of his past wins, and plus they put him already in the main card. So he only had a few fights in the prelims or early prelims, and so I think they're trying to boot him up there real quick. I think I'll definitely go with Magomedov.
I think I'm gonna go with the hot hand on this one. I'm gonna go with Magomedov. Keep that winning streak going. 14-0 right now, and I think he'll keep that train rolling this weekend. So all three of us have Magomedov in this one. Moving on next to the light heavyweight division. This should be a good one. We got Magomed Ankalaev on the precipice of maybe getting a title shot, but he has no pushover in this one against Alexander Rakic in this one. Admire, what do you think?
Well, the odds on this one, they got Ankalaev at a minus 345 and Rakic at a plus 275. So even before I seen what the odds were, I'm definitely going to go with Ankalaev. I think that, you know, he'll be fighting for a belt very soon. I think this is probably a title eliminator. So I expect him to bring it, you know, especially being over there.
Steve?
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a firefight. I really haven't seen too much flaw in Uncle Live to even doubt in him. Although Alexander Rakic, he did his job with what's his name? Well, his last fight that he lost to. Uh, but I'll have to go with Uncle Live because he's just been on a tear. For real, haven't been hurt too much or seen too much weakness in him to, like I said, even doubt him. So I'll go with Uncle Live.
Who am I gonna go? I don't know. Rockets is coming off of 2 losses. Jan beat him by that knee injury. I think that was fluky. And then Yuri Prochazka beat him back in April by TKO. Yeah, I think Uncle Liev doesn't have a slip up because he knows a title shot will be next. I think he's gonna try to test it on the ground. He's got that sambo background. I think he's gonna keep the pressure on Rockets, and it's just gonna be a little bit too much for him. And I'm gonna go with Uncle Liev. I think he might even finish him, but we'll see. Moving on next in the featherweight division, we have Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige. Admire, what do you think?
Man, I think this is probably going to be fight of the night.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. I mean, Dan Ige's a gamer. Much respect for him. He stepped in to fight Diego Lopez, on that very short notice fight, did a catch weight at 165.
Yeah.
I mean, Ige's tough, but Lerone Murphy, undefeated, dude's a stud. So, I mean, I think this, like I said, is going to be fight of the night. It's going to be a banger. Lerone Murphy coming in at a minus 270 favorite to Dan Ige's plus 220 underdog. I mean, the odds makers got the faith in Murphy, but I'm still kind of living off that performance Ige had against Lopez on short notice. He took Diego Lopez to a decision on no notice. So I'm going to go with the underdog on this one. I got to take Dan Ige.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, Dan Ige, he did a good job with Diego Lopez as far as carrying the decision. But analyzing that, Lerone Murphy fought Edson Barboza,
Yeah.
and defeated him. I mean, to me, that says a lot. And who knows if he carried that strength down, but he probably definitely gained a lot of weight. Now I can't remember Leron's size, but if he can take Barboza, which is a well stand-up guy as far as striking, I think he can definitely stand up with Ige. So I will go with Lerone Murphy on this one.
Man, so I'm the one that's gonna decide where this one goes. Murphy is undefeated. He's got that one draw. Like you said, he handled Barboza, and Barboza is a bigger featherweight who spent a lot of his career in lightweight. I don't know how this one is gonna go because I think Ige is definitely a live dog, but I think I'm gonna go with Murphy in this one for some reason. I won't be surprised if Ige won, but I'm gonna go with Murphy. Next up, co-main event, middleweight division. Big implications in this one. We have Robert the Reaper Whitaker, Bobby Knuckles versus Khamzat Chimaev. Let's hope that Chimaev can make it. We know he's injury prone. Well, who you gotta admire?
Man, I swear the other day I had a notification on my phone pop up and say that Chimaev was out, but it's still up there. So, yeah, hopefully he makes it. Man, Robert Whitaker's tough, dude. Like, I know he's come up short in, a few fights, but it just depends on what version of him shows up. And, is he going to be able to, withstand, Chimaev's going to look to take him down for sure. Chimaev, his last ones, he beat Usman, Holland, Burns. Man. Who's Robert Whitaker's last fight? He beat Ikram. Before that, he beat Paulo Costa, lost to DDP, beat Vittori, lost to Izzy, beat Gastelum, Cannonier, Till. Odds makers have this. Robert Whitaker plus 200 underdog. Chimaev minus 145 favorite. I'm gonna go Robert Whitaker.
All right. Robert Whitaker. Who you got, Steve?
Yeah. I was thinking, Robert Whitaker, he did, as far as I think his most grappling challenge was Yoel, and we all know how he did with that. I think Chimaev is more imposing with his grappling. If he doesn't get a finish, I think he's definitely going to he's going to annoy Robert Whitaker the whole fight with grappling. And I think that just might give Chimaev the win. So I'm going for Chimaev.
Yeah, I think Whitaker is definitely not going to look like a fish out of water in this one. I think he's going to be game, especially in the early rounds. But I think he'll probably start to tire out in the later rounds, and Chimaev, that grappling is going to take over, and Chimaev either goes the distance or maybe even gets him out of there in the 4th or 5th round. So I'm going to go with Chimaev, even though what was the fight where they were playing merry-go-round and it's supposed to be Chimaev versus Diaz. Who did Chimaev face instead? Didn't he face our guy and Gastelum, not Gastelum. Who did he face in that fight instead? He just fought.
Kevin Holland?
Kevin Holland. I was saying Kevin Gastelum. Yeah. I feel like Chimaev kind of struggled with Holland a little bit. And Holland fluctuates between welterweight and middleweight. But now that he had like a whole camp to focus on one person, I got him, winning this fight. But I wouldn't be surprised if, Whitaker throws a wrench in there, but I still got Chimaev in this one. Moving on to the main event in the featherweight division for the undisputed featherweight championship. You have your champion Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. Who you got in this one, Admire?
Man. Well, I'll give the odds. Topuria is a minus 238 favorite. Max Holloway plus 195 underdog. Every time I bet against Max Holloway, he wins. But Topuria is a beast, I mean, Max has fought everybody.
Except Topuria.
Let's see. Max's most recent loss was to Volkanovski 2 years ago. Before that, Volkanovski struggled with Poirier back in the day. It's not the same fighter. I got to go against Max again. I got to take Topuria.
All right. Who you got, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going with Max Holloway based off of his performances, what he's although it's a different weight class, what he done to Gaethje, I think he still might carry that. And his quickness might even serve him more in this fight. But it seems like in this part of his career, he's starting to understand the striking a little more, especially when I compare it to his that loss against Poirier, where he seems like he hasn't got jacked up since that, like that, and kind of changed it up, which we've seen that we all thought. Well, I thought he was going to get destroyed against Gaethje, but we all saw otherwise. I think he's gonna surprise us this fight, and I think so because I think Volkanovski, for who he was, you know, hearing that he used to be 200-something pounds, there's something about him to where his mass probably was getting to Max Holloway. I don't think to Poirier, he has beautiful boxing, but I don't think enough mass or power enough to kind of stun Max Holloway. So I think Max Holloway has a chance to just be him and stick and jab and be dominant on the striking end.
So Steve has Holloway. I asked Tapiria. I'm not confident pick, but I'm gonna go with the odds makers in this one. I'm gonna go Tapiria. Why? I don't know. Maybe for some of the reasons that Steve said, the boxing is crisp, and he's just sometimes people just, you know, are in the zone. And Tapiria, is he undefeated or did he lose one?
I think he's undefeated. Let's see. Yep, undefeated. And I mean, he is the champion. It seems like the UFC hasn't put any hype behind him like they do everybody else. So I think Tapiria is going to have something to prove too.
Yeah, I think this is the test of whether they want to strap the rocket to him. So it's almost like a passing of the torch, especially Max Holloway coming off that his last fight. It wasn't against Dustin. It was against Justin Gaethje. That crazy fight at 300. Yeah, so I think this will be like a passing of the torch if he wins to see if he could, you know, kind of get that light from Max Holloway. And I think if he does, then we might see a fight over there in Spain, his country. So yeah, this is definitely a big test for Tapiria. But like I said, I'm not confident in this pick because if we saw the same Max Holloway that we did against Justin Gaethje, I think it's going to be a long night for Tapiria, or maybe even a short night. But hey, that's why they put him in the cage. We can talk about it, but until they actually get in the cage, we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, that'll do it for us. We come to the end of the show, and we'll be back next week to talk about all these fights that happen over there in Abu Dhabi, and give our reactions to that. But make sure to follow us on social media and the YouTube page and run those numbers up. We appreciate all the support. But that'll do it for here at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.
Hit the takedown, ground and pound, that was from the top. Heel hooking on one platter, leave you in the knot. Pound for pound, been the greatest. Sitting on the top, and I'm laughing at the fools.